Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Extension Development Studies, SOEDS, Diploma Postgraduate Diploma Programs, PG Diploma in Corporate Social Responsibility, PGDCSR, Med 052 CSR Process, Volume 1, Block 1 Operationalizing CSR, Unit-1 Structural and Functional Setup. 1.1 Introduction. The practice of CSR is not new to companies in India. However, what the Companies Act 2013 has done is bring more companies into the fold of CSR. Also, it is likely that the total CSR spends will increase. What is clear to many companies is that if this increased spending is to achieve results on the ground, which is one of the core intents of the Act, then it is needed to be done strategically, systematically, and thoughtfully. It is in this context that the present unit envisages equipping you for this shift towards structured engagement with communities. It suggests steps to develop a CSR strategy and policy, and identifies the key building blocks for initiating and developing the CSR programs. It takes the CSR practitioner through some of the key choices that may be required to be made, while pursuing CSR objectives and help develop internal capabilities in an organization that is socially sensitive and responsible. A major part of the unit focuses on the what and how of strategizing, planning, executing, and monitoring the CSR activities of companies. After studying this unit, you will be able to explain the policy formulation of CSR and organizational setup, discuss the formation of CSR Committee of the Board of Directors, its roles and responsibilities, identify the thematic areas, describe strategic project management, 1.2 policy formulation and organizational setup. Once a company is covered under the ambit of the CSR, it is required to comply with the provisions of the CSR. The companies covered under subsection 1 of Section 135 are required to do the following activities: Figure 1.1 and Box 1, Figure 1.1, Responsibilities of the CSR Committee. 1. Constitute a CSR Committee. 2. Formulate a CSR policy. 3. Spend at least 2% of the average net profits of last 3 years on CSR activities. 4. Disclose the composition of CSR Committee and CSR policy and its implementation in Board's report. Box 1. List of responsibilities of the CSR Committee. 1. As provided under Section 135. 1. Companies are required to constitute a Corporate Social Responsibility Committee of the Board hereinafter CSR Committee. The CSR Committee shall comprise of 3 or more directors, out of which at least 1 director shall be an independent director. 2. All such companies should formulate CSR policy. 3. All such companies shall spend, in every financial year, at least 2% of the average net profits of the company made during the 3 immediately preceding financial years, in pursuance of its corporate social responsibility policy. It has been clarified that the average net profits shall be calculated in accordance with the provisions of Section 198 of the Companies Act 2013. Also, provision to the Rule 3.1 of the CSR rules that the net worth, turnover or net profit of a foreign company of the Act shall be computed in accordance with the balance sheet and profit and loss account of such company prepared in accordance with the provisions of Clause A of subsection 1 of Section 381 and Section 198 of the Companies Act 2013. 4. The Board's report shall disclose the compositions of the CSR Committee. 1.2.1 The objectives of CSR policy. CSR policy of a company is laid down with the following objectives: establishing a guideline for compliance with the provisions of regulations to dedicate the recommended percentage of companies' profits for social projects, ensuring the implementation of CSR initiatives in letter and spirit through appropriate procedures and reporting. Creating opportunities for employees to participate in socially responsible initiatives. Many PSUs and conglomerates do have written policies being government undertakings, whereas private companies of repute like Tata Steel, Reliance, Ambuja, Aditya Birla also have developed detailed CSR policies. The CSR policy reflects vision and mission statement, beneficiaries to be covered, thematic areas, undertaken, place of implementation, etc., 1.2.2 CSR Committee and Board. The composition of the CSR Committee varies based on the type of company. Composition of CSR Committee. Type of company composition. Listed 3 or more directors including at least 1 independent director. Unlisted and private 3 or more directors. An independent director is mandatory, private 2 directors, foreign at least 2 persons, one of which must be company's representative in India. Clause 135 of the Act lays down the guidelines to be followed by companies while developing their CSR programs. The CSR Committee remains responsible for preparing a detailed plan on CSR activities, including the expenditure, the type of activities, roles and responsibilities of various stakeholders and a monitoring mechanism for such activities. Figure 1.2. Role of the Board and the CSR Committee. The CSR Committee can also ensure that all the kinds of income accrued to the company by way of CSR activities should be credited back to the community or CSR corpus. The Act requires that the board of the company shall, after taking into account the recommendations made by the CSR Committee, approve the CSR policy of the company and disclose its contents in their report, and also net worth 500 crores INR, turnover greater than 1,000 crores INR, net profit 5 crores INR. Role of the board: form a CSR committee, approve CSR policy, ensure implementation of activities under CSR, ensure 2% spend, disclose reasons for not spending the amount, if applicable. Role of the CSR committee: 3 or more directors including at least 1 independent director, formulate and recommend a CSR policy to the board, recommend activities and the amount of expenditure to be incurred, monitor the CSR policy and projects from time to time. The CSR committee can also ensure that all the kinds of income accrued to the company by way of CSR activities should be credited back to the community or CSR corpus. The Act requires that the board of the company shall, after taking into account the recommendations made by the CSR committee, approve the CSR policy of the company and disclose its contents in their report, and also publish the details on the company's official website, if any, in such manner as may be prescribed. If the company fails to spend the prescribed amount, the board, in its report, shall specify the reasons, formulating a policy document, and the selection of the board and the committee is an excellent starting point for any company new to CSR. In case a company already practices CSR, this committee should be set up at the earliest so that it can guide the alignment of the company's activities with the requirements of the Act. For effective implementation, the CSR committee must also oversee the systematic development of a set of processes and guidelines for CSR to deliver its proposed value to the company, including processes such as developing CSR strategy and operationalizing the institutional mechanism. Repetitive processes such as the annual CSR policy, due diligence of the implementation partners, project development, project approval, contracting, budgeting and payments, monitoring, impact measurement and reporting and communication. A set of such enabling processes, their interrelationships, and the sequence in which they need to be developed have been identified in Figure 1.3. While developing these processes, no standard set of recommendations exist for all companies. However, an overview of the required details, the activities required to be completed for each of these processes, along with some additional guidance on critical issues, have been provided below. Figure 1.3. Role of committee in CSR processes. 1.3 Methodology of CSR. CSR is the procedure for assessing an organization's impact on society and evaluating its responsibilities. It begins with an assessment of the following aspects of each business: customers, suppliers, environment, communities, and employees. The most effective CSR plan ensures that while organizations comply with the legislation, their investments also respect the growth and development of marginalized communities and the environment. CSR should also be sustainable, involving activities that an organization can uphold without negatively affecting its business goals. Organizations in India have been quite sensible in taking up CSR initiatives and integrating them into their business processes. It has been progressively projected in the Indian corporate setting because organizations have recognized that besides growing their businesses, it is also important to shape responsible and agile relationships with the community at large. Companies now have specific departments and teams that develop specific policies, strategies, and goals for their CSR programs and set separate budgets to support them. Most of the time, these programs are based on well-defined social beliefs or are carefully aligned with the company's business domain. 1.3.1 CSR trends in India. Since the applicability of mandatory CSR provision in 2014, CSR spending by corporate India has increased significantly. In 2018, companies spent 47% higher as compared to the amount in 2014 to 15, contributing 7,536 Indian rupees crores. $1 billion to CSR initiatives, according to KPMG India CSR Reporting Survey 2018. Listed companies in India spent 10,000 Indian rupees crore, $1.4 billion in various programs ranging from educational programs, skill development, social welfare, healthcare, and environment conservation, while the Prime Minister's Relief Fund saw an increase of 139% in CSR contribution over last 1 year. The education sector received the maximum funding, 38% of the total, followed by hunger, poverty, and healthcare, 25%, environmental, sustainability, 12%, and rural development, 11%. Programs, such as technology incubators, sports, armed forces, reducing inequalities saw negligible spends. Taking into account the recent amendments to CSR provisions, industry research estimates CSR compliance to improve and range between 97 to 98%. 1.3.2 Examples in CSR. India. Tata Group. The Tata Group conglomerate in India carries out various CSR projects, most of which are community improvement and poverty alleviation programs. Through self-help groups, it has engaged in women's empowerment activities, income generation, rural community development, and other social welfare programs. In the field of education, the Tata Group provides scholarships and endowments to numerous institutions. The group also engages in healthcare projects, such as the facilitation of child education, immunization, and creation of awareness of AIDS. Other areas include economic empowerment through agriculture programs, environment protection, providing sports scholarships, and infrastructure development, such as hospitals, research centers, educational institutions, sports academy, and cultural centers. Ultratech Cement, India's biggest cement company, is involved in social work across 407 villages in the country, aiming to create sustainability and self-reliance. Its CSR activities focus on healthcare and family welfare programs, education, infrastructure, environment, social welfare, and sustainable livelihoods. The company has organized medical camps, immunization programs, sanitation programs, school enrollment, plantation drives, water conservation programs, industrial training, and organic farming programs. ITC Group, a conglomerate with business interests across hotels, FMCG, agriculture, IT, and packaging sectors, has been focusing on creating sustainable livelihoods and environment protection programs. The company has been able to generate sustainable livelihoods opportunities for 6 million people through its CSR activities. Its eTupal program, which aims to connect rural farmers through the internet for procuring agriculture products, covers 40,000 villages and over 4 million farmers. Its social and farm forestry program assists farmers in converting wasteland to pulpwood plantations. Social empowerment programs through microenterprises or loans have created sustainable livelihoods for over 40,000 rural women. The above examples show that companies adapt thematic areas of interventions and accordingly plan their strategy to implement the same. In next part of the unit, you will get to know the areas given under law to be adapted by companies. Activity 1. Visit a CSR project being implemented in the city of your residence. Inquire about the project coverage and its impact and write about them in your own words. 1.4 CSR thematic areas activities. The policy recognizes that corporate social responsibility is not merely compliance, it is a commitment to support initiatives that measurably improve the lives of underprivileged by one or more of the following focus areas as notified under Section 135 of the Companies Act, 2013, and Companies, Corporate Social Responsibility Policy, Rules 2014, eradicating hunger, poverty and malnutrition, promoting preventive health, care and sanitation and making safe drinking water available. 2. Promoting education, including special education and employment, enhancing vocation skills, especially among children, women, elderly and the differently abled, and livelihood enhancement projects. 3. Promoting gender equality, empowering women, setting up homes and hostels for women and orphans, setting up old age homes, day care centers, and such other facilities for senior citizens, and measures for reducing inequalities faced by socially and economically backward groups. 4. Reducing child mortality and improving maternal health by providing good hospital facilities and low-cost medicines. Providing hospital and dispensary facilities with more focus on clean and good sanitation so as to combat human immunodeficiency virus, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, malaria, and other diseases. 6. Ensuring environmental sustainability, ecological balance, protection of flora and fauna, animal welfare, agroforestry, conservation of natural resources, and maintaining quality of soil, air and water. 7. Employment enhancing vocational skills. 8. Protection of national heritage, art and culture including restoration of buildings and sites of historical importance and works of art, setting up public libraries. 9. Promotion and development of traditional arts and handicrafts. Measures for the benefit of armed forces veterans, war widows and their dependents. 11. Training to promote rural sports, nationally recognized sports and Olympic sports. 12. Contribution to the Prime Minister's National Relief Fund or any other fund set up by the central government for socio-economic development and relief and welfare of the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, other backward classes, minorities, women. 13. Contributions or funds provided to technology incubators located within academic institutions, which are approved by the central government. 14. Rural development projects, etc. 15. Slum area development. Explanation: for the purposes of this item, the term slum area shall mean any area declared as such by the central government or any state government or any other competent authority, under any law for the time being in force. Figure 1.4. Indicative activities under CSR specified under Schedule 7 of the Act. Figure 1.5. CSR activities at NTPC. The above list is illustrative, not exhaustive. All activities under the CSR domain should be environment-friendly and socially acceptable to the local people and society. Figure 1.5. Activities at NTPC under CSR. Contribution towards the Chief Minister's Relief Fund shall be a part of CSR activities over and above 2% of net profit other than the activities mentioned above. Further, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs VID notification dated the 24th of October, 2014 increased the scope of contribution made towards corporate social responsibility activities, namely, contribution to the Swachh Bharat Kosha set up by the central government for the promotion of sanitation and contribution to the Clean Ganga Fund set up by the central government for rejuvenation of the river Ganga. 1.5 CSR strategic planning. For effective implementation, the CSR committee must also oversee systematic development of a set of processes and guidelines for CSR to deliver its proposed value to the company, as discussed in section 1.2.2. Now this section discusses an identified set of enabling processes, their interrelationships and the sequence in which they need to be developed as shown in figure 1.3. While developing these processes, no standard set of recommendations exist for all companies. Following are suggested steps involved in strategic planning while developing the program. 1.5.1 Steps in strategic planning in CSR. Each step is described generally under 3 major heads. The first head deals with the purpose of that step. The second head deals with the process which covers the objectives of that step, the owners of that particular step, the inputs required and the outputs generated as a result of fulfillment of that step. The third head describes the various activities that will form a part of that particular step. Step I. Developing a CSR strategy and policy. A. Purpose. CSR strategy refers to what the company expects to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years and incorporates the vision, mission, and goals on a broader level. It also outlines how it plans to achieve these in terms of organization and approach. B. Framework. An effective CSR strategy should articulate its I. Target group, 2. Area of operation, 3. Sectors or issues it wishes to address, C. Process, objective. Developing the CSR strategy and policy. Process owners. The CSR committee is the owner of the process. Inputs, guidance from the board, requirements of the Companies Act, business strategy and plan of corporate. The involvement of the supply chain are needed, both national and other. Interests of the company would be included in development priorities. Outputs, the CSR policy document, identification of sectors and issues, and actual benefit of people are the output. D. Activities. The first part of activities would be reviewing the past and monitoring the current CSR activities to match Schedule 7 of the Companies Act, 2013. Second part will define the company's activities under CSR strategies for next 3 to 5 years. E. Vision and mission. The CSR thrust is on community development. A. CSR vision statement is a vivid, compelling description of its future CSR position. I. Sectors and issues. CSR covers a broad spectrum of issues that must be taken into account in business conduct. This includes working conditions, human rights, and the environment, preventing corruption, corporate governance, gender equality, occupational integration, consumer interests and taxes. 2. Area of operation, states and districts. Underperforming states not a priority for CSR fund. Policy anomaly tilts CSR scales in favor of states. 3. Beneficiaries. The target beneficiaries have every right to know if there is any social auditing and certification process in place for the money taken out in their name by the corporate world to check the impact of CSR. 4. KPIs, Key Performance Indicators. Global Reporting Initiatives, GRI, reporting guidelines, specifically its performance indicators, can be used to help a company create ethical corporate social responsibility, CSR, strategies and to also help stakeholder groups evaluate how much of a company's CSR initiative truly means the stakeholder definition of CSR and how much is merely philanthropy or marketing. V. Determining the implementation mechanism. I. Grant-making or direct implementation. 2. Institutional mechanism, in-house department, corporate foundation, partnerships with other NGOs. Implementation of CSR means that enterprises abide by laws, regulations, social norms, and business ethics, effectively manage the influence of the corporate operation upon the stakeholders and the natural environment, and maximize the comprehensive value in economic, social, and environmental aspects. 6. Establish methods for monitoring and reporting. CSR project, monitoring, evaluation, and reporting are management requirements for the successful implementation of any CSR project to ensure that the said project achieves the required objectives. Example: the Aditya Birla Group has a vision to actively contribute to the social and economic development of the communities in which it operates. In doing so, build a better, sustainable way of life for the weaker sections of society and raise the country's Human Development Index. Aditya Birla CSR achievements: runs 5,000 medical camps and 20 hospitals, immunized 70 million children against polio, operates 56 schools for 46,500 school children, skill training for 95,000 people, midday meal every day for 63,000 children in 268 schools, provides solar lamps for 450,000 school children. Step 2. The institutional mechanism. A. Purpose. In order for a corporate to gain the greatest leverage and a strategic advantage through the investment of intellectual and financial resources, they are required to select their implementation mechanism. In terms of implementation mechanism, a company has several options, which are permitted under the CSR draft rules. The grants can be made directly by an in-house CSR department or through the company's grant-making foundation. 2. Making grants to an independent implementation partner, which has a track record of at least 3 years, e.g., NGOs of state or national repute. B. Process objective. A company's objective is to establish a legal entity and aligning the accounting, tax, finance, administration, HR, and IT systems to deliver the commitments made in the CSR policy. Process owners. The CSR committee is the process owner. Inputs. The CSR strategy. Outputs. Creation of a separate legal entity or a CSR department. 4. CSR activities. 2. Other institutional mechanisms to align the accounting, finance, administration, HR, and IT systems with CSR activities. C. Activities. For the CSR implementation, the company should have an in-house CSR department, or it can collaborate with a trust, society, foundation, not-for-profit Section 8 company, for example Aditya Birla, Center for Community Initiatives and Rural Development works with WHO, Australia-India Council, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Habitat for Humanity, CII, European Union, EU, Global Compact Network, International Rotary Club, National Skills Development Council, FICCI, NABARD, NARCO, CARE, IGNOU, Aidit Action, SOWA, BAIF, Mirada, Basics, CARD, Art of Living Foundation, Smile Foundation, Maya Foundation, Childline India Foundation, and local NGOs. The next step would be to identify the implementation model, grant making, direct project execution, etc. A funding source needs to be finalized. 4. CSR work. Employees' job descriptions, their roles and responsibilities, should be clearly stated, and a proper reporting system to the CSR team should be defined. The existing finance, administration, and IT systems should have a clear picture of the total CSR fund received, its expenditure, and balance. The CSR team should be intimated well in advance about the allocation for the expenses or assets created, so that the work of running the project should not be hampered. Activity 2. Visit a CSR project being implemented in the city of your residence. Inquire about and record the names of the project partners involved in the implementation of that project. Step 3. Due diligence of the implementation partner. A. Purpose. Due diligence refers to the process a company undertakes to determine the risks as well as the benefits of working with a potential implementation partner. This process has to be sufficiently effective to ensure that a company's implementation partners have the reputation, competence, and integrity to deliver effective programs on the ground. The due diligence process consists of 5 primary areas for investigation: competence of the implementation partner, identity, management, accountability, transparency, and financial capability. B. Process objective. Selecting the implementation partner, process owners, the CSR department or company foundation. Inputs. The CSR strategy and policy. 2. Discussions with communities, management, staff, other funders, local government officials, local leaders or influencers. Auditors studying the books of accounts and the auditor's report. Outputs. A due diligence report. C. Activities. Establishing a due diligence criteria to evaluate the implementation, permits and licenses, systems, processes, public image, management, team strength, track record, financial capacity, competence level, presence in desired geography, compatibility with company CSR policy. Establishing due diligence criteria for evaluation and empanelment of private funders for partnership and joint projects is also required. Evaluating partnership opportunities for its risks and benefits, and any conflicts of interest between the stakeholders need to be identified. Step 4. Project development. A. Purpose. The CSR strategy of a company will be implemented through a series of projects with clearly identified starting to end cycle. It has to have synergy between input and output, i.e., funds, other resources, and total expenditure. These projects could be of any length, short duration, A. Few months, or multi-year. B. Process, objective, developing a feasible project proposal, process owners, the implementation agency, the CSR department, company foundation or the NGO partner. Inputs, I. The CSR policy. 2. Institutional mechanisms. 3. Information, from the government sources, previous studies done in the area, etc. 4. Information on programs targeting similar geographies and beneficiary groups or strategies. V. Monitoring impact, measurement reports from any earlier projects, outputs, a project proposal that details I. Project context including the roles of other stakeholders. 2. Key needs of target beneficiaries. 3. Project goals, KPI, key performance indicators, baselines and expected end lines. 4. Project milestones for progress monitoring purposes. V. Activities and timelines to achieve the stated project goals. 6. Budgets along with the purpose of expenditure. 7. Risks and mitigation strategies. 8. Progress reporting, step-by-step narration from starting to end. C. Activities. I. Developing a framework to identify key stakeholder groups including the local community, the local government or bodies, academia and research institutions, investors, etc. 2. Conducting a needs assessment, if required, to assess development priorities. The methodology for this can be participatory processes, surveys, or a combination of the two. 3. Studying and adopting good practices to address similar challenges, based on prior experiences or lessons available from other practitioners, and develop the approach. 4. Detailing the project, objectives, beneficiaries, and impact on the beneficiaries, assumptions, expected outputs and outcomes, detailed activities, potential to influence public policy and practice. V. Identifying indicators of success with the means of verification and establish baseline for each. This can be commissioned as a separate study or can even be included at the need assessment stage. 6. Estimating the budget and how it will be funded, specifying community contributions, leveraging of government schemes and contributions from other donors. 7. Indicating monitoring and evaluation methodologies for impact measurement. Step V. Project approval. A. Purpose. Every project, whether developed by the in-house team or an external agency, must be formally examined and approved. This is to ensure that each project is in line with the CSR strategy and policy, that the monitoring indicators are clearly defined and relevant, and that there is adequate budget available. The projects must be scrutinized carefully for their durations and resource demands. The CSR committee is ultimately responsible for every project. It can, however, choose to delegate authority to a project approval committee, consisting of company staff and outside experts with clearly defined roles and responsibilities. B. Process, objective, approve projects based on the CSR policy objectives, principles, and guidelines. Process owners, the CSR committee or the delegated project approval committee. Inputs, project proposal, due diligence report should be forwarded to the implementation unit. Outputs, an approved project proposal including a monitoring process and reporting and clear-cut delegation of work, i.e., who will do what should be outlined. C. Activities. I. Determining the delegation of power for project approval. 2. Establishing an evaluation framework for appraisal of the project concepts. 3. The project concept should align with CSR policy. 4. Establish theory of change. This requires need-based tests which result in value for money and efficiency. V. Reviewing risks and mitigation measures. 6. Identifying resource availability and any specific organizational requirements and constraints. 7. Laying down organizational supervision and oversight requirements. Step 6. Finalizing the arrangement with implementing agency. A. Purpose. While working with an external agency, it is very important to enter into a formal arrangement which is referred to here as a Memorandum of Understanding or MOU. It defines the roles, responsibilities, deliverables, commitments and consequences in case of any breach. This is essentially a formal acknowledgement that all the partners have voluntarily consented to work together to achieve an agreed outcome that requires each one to play their respective roles. B. Disbursement scheduling. For a project to deliver the desired results, it should have sufficient funds and resources to carry out the planned activities. At the same time, having excess funds in the bank account is not prudent. Financial management. Thus, the scheduling of disbursements is important, both for the company, to plan its cash flows from the CSR budget, and the implementing agency, and hence needs to be detailed in the MOU. A good practice suggests that the scheduling of disbursements should be linked with the activities planned for each period. This can be a quarter, 6 months, or a year depending upon the administrative convenience and budget sizes. Thus, the project budget needs to be broken up accordingly and the funds required for the subsequent period should be made available in advance. C. Process, objective, agree upon and sign MOU with the partner, process owners, the CSR department or company foundation. Inputs: I. An approved project proposal. 2. A due diligence report. Outputs: MOU with the implementing agency including disbursement schedule. D. Activities: I. Developing a template for the MOUs based on the context. Specify the outputs and outcomes, the approach and methodology, the KPIs, key parameters to be monitored and reported, the mode of communication, contract management team, scope of change in management procedures, dispute or conflict resolution mechanisms, inspection and audit, requirements, contract closeout requirements, timelines, milestones, and deliverables, budgets, process of invoicing and release of payments, etc. 2. Establishing a process for negotiation, the MOU with the implementing agency. 3. Finally, agreeing upon and signing the MOU. Step 7. Progress monitoring and reporting. A. Purpose. Routine progress monitoring serves the following 3 important purposes. I. It highlights any shortcomings and helps to determine corrective action that must be taken if need be. 2. It provides an excellent opportunity for learning what worked and what did not. This can then be immediately applied to other projects. 3. This is an essential part of the Director's Report as per the CSR Clause of the Companies Act, 2013. B. Process, objective, monitoring progress, learning lessons, and helping to prepare the reporting, process owners, the CSR committee. Inputs: I. The approved project proposal. 2. Previous monitoring reports. Outputs: I. Determining mid-course corrections. 2. Recommendations for future project designs. 3. Project monitoring reports to the CSR committee. C. Activities: I. Based on the approved project proposal, the need is to determine the monitoring schedule for each project. 2. Obtaining all relevant progress reports from the project, studying them, and making a note of the gaps. 3. Holding discussions with the implementation team about shortcomings, if any, and to agree on corrective actions. This may be done through a field visit or remotely, based on what has been agreed in the MOU. 4. Holding discussions with the implementation team regarding what lessons are emerging and how they can be applied within the project as well as outside. Step 8. Impact measurement. A. Purpose. The impact of CSR projects can be varied. For instance, a girl-child education program can show increased enrollment and retention of girls. Further impacts such as improved learning levels will take at least a year. So, impact measurement studies have different objectives from project monitoring and typically have to be undertaken after providing sufficient time for them to manifest. B. Process, objective, measuring outcomes and impact of projects, process owners, the CSR committee. Inputs: how resource planning is done and alignment with the project. MOU. Outputs: on the basis of the impact measurement report, recommendations for future project designs need to be taken care of. C. Activities: I. Identifying methods for conducting impact assessment and outcome measurement suited to the context and size of the project and budgets available. 2. Defining the skills required for the impact measurement team and, accordingly, identifying, selecting and appointing the team. 3. Assisting the team in sample selection, conducting surveys and focus group discussions. 4. Making provisions for site visits by the team. V. undertaking the impact measurement exercise and preparing the report. 6. Identifying lessons for future interventions. Step 9. Report consolidation and communication. A. Purpose. Reporting and communication close the loop between intent and achievement and are hence crucial elements of the CSR process. In the context of the Companies Act, 2013, this is also a mandatory requirement, as it provides crucial inputs to preparing the Director's report. B. Process, objective, reporting the CSR at an individual project level, consolidated, at a program level and aligned with the requirements under the Companies Act, 2013 and the CSR Committee, process owners, the CSR Department, inputs, CSR strategy and policy. It needs to be ensured that monitoring reports are aligned with the project MAU, outputs, finalization of CSR reports. The report should be disseminated to the Board of Directors, investors, government agencies, beneficiaries, etc. C. Activities. I. Selecting the appropriate reporting framework that is aligned with requirements of the Companies Act, 2013 and global best practices. 2. Consolidating project reports into program reports and an overall CSR report. 3. The reporting format is a part of the CSR rules. 1.6 Summary. Implementation of CSR within an organization is an important element for companies today. The unit explores different steps in the CSR implementation process, with the intention to create a dynamic CSR implementation model that could be utilized by organizations as guidelines when implementing CSR within their organization. CSR implementation is a complex process that needs to be integrated in every part of the organization and in the daily activities in order to be successful. CSR implementation process should also be seen as an ongoing and never-ending process, rather than a strategy implementation with an evident beginning and ending. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.